Hello everybody and welcome back to year 2 of Frost Clan. Just like last episode, we will be starting off with Star Clan. I will also like to get this out of the way. I'm not really happy with how some of the designs turned out and will be redrawing all of the characters for year 3. But we will be starting off, as some of you might have already been able to see, with Pebble Flight, whichever is her name. At the very start of the year, her and Cloud Mask had found a 2-leg nest, just like at the end of year 1. This time, however, she had been snatched up, leaving Cloud Mask unable to help his friend. She then proceeded to die while trying to make her way back to the camp. Her last memories were of her wondering if she would even make it to StarClan, out of fear of being too far from the clan. This is actually fairly important to another cat story, and will be mentioned later on. Next up is Night Spark, who died really early on in the year when she was found buried alive when a burrow had collapsed on top of her. No one really knows what she was doing in the burrow, and no one's really figured it out either. It was one of the first times she had left the camp by herself. Next up is Auburn Star, who, for the most part, only had one key thing happen this year, and that's the fact that she stopped eating. I genuinely do not know why. It kept saying that there wasn't enough prey, but there was plenty of prey. We had, in fact, too much prey. But she was just refusing to eat. This left the clan in a very strained situation, without a deputy and with a leader refusing to eat. They essentially had to just become a group of loners for a few months that worked together, I guess, on occasion. Next up is our deputy, Otterpur. He was named deputy a few months into the year, once we had a kid old enough to be an apprentice. He spent pretty much all of his time as deputy, both playing the leader role and desperately trying to get Auburn Star to eat something. None of this really worked. Next up is Bright Crest. Still as fierce as ever, although during the last bit of the year, she did fall ill with yellow cough. Luckily, she has recovered, but for the most part, there's not much to say about her this year. That goes as well with our next cat, Stone Peak. Although Stone Peak and Lizard Feather did actually help us with getting a new deputy when the two of them found an apprentice pleading to join the clan. The last two cats didn't have too much going on, and neither really does this new cat, but she is new, so there is a bit more to say about her. She was found on the border by a patrol that was led by Otterpur, who was extremely stressed out about everything going on with Auburn Star and was pretty much desperate for any help, believing that maybe the prey they all were hunting was wrong, or he didn't really know what he was thinking. He just was really in need of someone who might be able to help. So when he met this stranger, he was hopeful, to say the least. She decided to keep her old name, Treasure, though they didn't know where she had gotten the name, as she is a loner, but they did comment that it seemed like a kitty pet name. Later on in the year, she actually admitted that she felt like she had had a StarClan vision, but sadly nothing came to be from that. Moving on to a quick thing about her character design, I love her design. She will not be getting a redesign at all. I really like how she turned out. She reminds me of a lion, and that was kind of done on purpose. There's really nothing about her character that makes me think lion, but I don't know. I just liked it, and so I gave her a bit of a lion tail. Her patterns have nothing to do with lions, though, so I guess it's more of just the tail. Next is Cloudmask themselves. He could not accept Puddleflight's death and often goes back to where they had last seen each other. This ends up backfiring when he gets taken by Two Legs. Thankfully, he manages to escape in only a day. But this year, he had an especially hard time with his leg injury. On multiple occasions, he found that he couldn't get out of bed because of just how much pain he was in. Eventually, he decided he should probably go get his leg looked at again, only to find that while in his escape from the Two Legs, he had dislocated his leg a second time. But because of it not getting proper care, it had slowly been breaking and has now been permanently damaged, much more than just a sprain. As far as he's concerned, however, it's manageable, and he still continues to climb and sneak around just to enjoy the breeze in his fur. But he has started listening a bit more when people warn him to be careful. Cloudmask also plays a very important role in the next character's story. Stonepeak, Clash, and Cloudmask were all out on patrol when they heard a desperate cry. They followed it and found a two-leg throwing a kitty pet in the water. Cloudmask immediately jumped in without thinking, but the two-leg ended up kicking him into a tree. This forced the rest of the patrol to retreat, and they didn't end up saving the other cat. When they got back to camp, Brightcrest informed them that Cloudmask had broken his jaw. Luckily, he healed very quickly, but he didn't have to heal alone, as just a few days later, a patrol stumbled upon a trembling kitty pet who was soaked in water. His jaw was set at an unnatural angle and he could barely talk. But Clash recognized his voice. He was the cat they had failed to save. He too had ended up breaking his jaw, and his ended up getting a lot worse than Cloudmask. His got infected and ended up leaving a pretty bad scar on his mouth. He still has a bit of problems talking, but for the most part, he's very confident in who he is now. His name is Winghowl. And our next cat, also a very new cat, is named Granite. She's lonesome but an amazing storyteller. She arrived with her litter of kittens trailing behind her. She then very soon disappeared for a few days, but when she came back, she wasn't alone. She was accompanied by a Tom that the clan did not recognize. At first, I thought he might have been the kit's father. Age-wise, it did add up, but with that being said, however, he looks nothing like any of the kits, and you'll see that later on. And I know cats are kind of weird with genetics and stuff like that, but I think there might be something more going on with this Tom, who just so happens to be the next cat up. His name is Flexwind. He's fierce and has a bit of natural intuition. He didn't do too much this year, and so there's not much to say about him, other than the clan suspecting he could have something more to do with these kits. The next cat up was accidentally filmed horizontally, so the recording is sideways. I'll show the finished product later in the video, but yeah, this recording is sideways. I'm sorry, I couldn't figure out how to fix it. His name's Turtle Swan, and he was found by Stone Peak, who was sent out by themselves to look around the territory. Auburn Star said it was because they needed as many people hunting as possible. Stone Peak hadn't expected to find a cat on the side of the Thunder Path, and when he noticed that the cat was alive, he quickly rushed them back to camp. He was revealed to have sustained some head damage from being hit by a monster. The clan was super impressed and relieved that he had lived. Not many cats would. And somehow, it wasn't a once-off. One moon, when him and Otterpur went out hunting, they chose to cross the Thunder Path. Otterpur made it to the other side, but just before he could, a monster lunged at Turtle Swan. Otterpur watched in horror, unable to do anything, but luckily the monster passed and Turtle Swan was miraculously alive, but had broken his jaw. I now realize that this actually ended up scarring him, and I forgot to add that in the drawing. That won't be changed, but for next year, his scar should be there, as long as I remember. Alright, and our next cat up is Lizard Feather, who's still just as strict as ever. But sadly, during the beginning of this year, she fought a dog and was badly injured. It ended up getting very infected through most of the year. She healed, luckily, but left her tail badly mangled, which has resulted in her having a very hard time balancing as of late. This next cat is our saving grace. What would be the Star Clan equivalent of that? I don't know. What do y'all think the Star Clan version of that would be? Anyways, carrying on. Stonepeak and Lizard Feather were out on patrol when they stumbled upon a Lupin Clan apprentice pleading to join the clan. They were hesitant, but still in desperate need of an apprentice, and decided to let him stay, or at least give him a chance. While on their way back to camp, Lizard Feather explained that he was going to be very important. He was very confused hearing this until they got to camp, and he realized that there was no deputy. He was greeted solely by Auburn Star. He then looked around and saw that there were no apprentices either. He couldn't hear any kits from the nursery, so he assumed that there were none of... So he realized that whomever his mentor for this clan would be the deputy. He's extremely clever like that, and just kind of put all of that together on his own. No one really explained that to him. As you can probably guess, Otterpur was named his mentor, and in turn, deputy. When he became a warrior, Rubble Stone, he was honored for his hard work. Alright, next up is Clash. The whispers of her clanmates kind of have been getting to her this year. She confided in Auburn Star and explained that she feels she had let down her clan. Auburn Star assures her that it's not her fault. But that didn't really help until, of course, Rubblestone showed up, when a lot of the blame had been shifted and actually just fully disappeared. Something else that worries Auburn Star about Clash is when she received her warrior name, there was no enthusiasm at all. Paw seemed to act like it was just another day. She didn't seem excited or bright-eyed like she had been when she became an apprentice. Our next cat is another new face, Baypelt. She's nervous, a good hunter, and steady-pawed. Not a lot happened with her this year. She used to live near a two-leg barn, but was chased away by something she doesn't want to speak of. She's extremely nervous, as mentioned before, and has kind of stuck with just tailing behind Clash and Rubblestone. Next up are Garnet's kits, starting off with Sage Paw. She's sweet and loves stories. When she became an apprentice, she was mentored under Wing Howl, who she was actually very excited to be mentored under, as he had already had a very good reputation for his storytelling. When it comes to Sagepaw's design, I kind of took a lot of leniency. In game, she's mostly just a solid orange cat with a bit of fading on the stomach, but I thought that was just a bit boring, so I gave her her little heart design. I'm fairly sure these kits might be the only cats, or only new cats, that don't get a redesign next year. Next up is Hailpaw. He's charming and interested in clan history, though towards a bit later in the year he becomes a bit troublesome. He was mentored under Rubblestone himself, and he actually was super excited about this, having heard so many stories of how this apprentice, who was actually only a few moons older than him, had pretty much saved the clan. The next sibling up is Budpaw, who's shy and never sits still. He was actually mentored under their mother. This led her to one day take him out from camp and just try to talk to him, see if he was making friends in the apprentice den, only for him to point out that the only kits in the apprentice den were his siblings, so he hoped that he's making friends. I mentioned before that Puddleflight's death was important to one other cat, and it would just so happen to be Budpaw. He, for some reason, developed a very deep-seated fear of dying outside of the territories, wondering if they would ever be able to go to StarClan if that were to happen. But Granite told him the story of another young she-cat who had died far beyond FrostClan's borders, but she had still found her way to StarClan, step by step, and if it had ever come to it, so would Budpaw. And the last of the kits, Slumberpaw, an unruly, careful listener. She's being mentored by Flexwind, and although she tries to chill when in training, she oftentimes runs off and gets into trouble, most of the time with her siblings. Flexwind has tried suggesting that they stop all training together because it seems to distract her, but no one really's listened to that just yet. And now, looking at the clan, I realize that there's one cat missing. I never ended up drawing Waspdapple for this year, but to be honest, he didn't really do too much this year. He mostly just hung out in the Elder's Den, and also was hit pretty hard by Night Speck's death. This year, I was kind of experimenting with different styles of drawing the characters and different techniques. As you might have been able to tell, I switched from using the lasso tool to using the I don't know what it's called, I guess the bucket tool, how it's supposed to be. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed, and see y'all next time.